Hi, welcome to Low Carb Me and You. I'm Alexander, and today we're going to smoke some delicious bacon. Everybody loves bacon. It goes well with everything, from sandwiches to dinner and snacks in between. And it's fairly easy to make. You just mostly need a lot of patience. The key to great bacon is in the brine, of which I'll show you 3 versions. But with a little imagination, you can give them your own twist. The journey to great bacon starts with a big slab of pork belly. This one is about 4.5 kilograms, or 10 pounds, and still has the skin on. You can get it without the skin, but it's easy enough to remove yourself. You'll need a very sharp knife that's a bit flexible. You can just start at a corner and work your way from there. Pork belly has 2 types of fat. There's the hard, solid fat, which is the good kind, and we want to keep that. There's also the floppy, wiggly fat, which we don't want. When cooking bacon, the solid fat renders down nicely and gets crispy. The other fat really doesn't. Plus, the taste and texture just isn't right for bacon. So as you cut away the skin, make sure to cut out the floppy fat as well. The easiest way to remove the whole skin is to pull it with one hand and cut along the seam at the same time. Just slide the knife along the skin. It's far easier than whittling away at the skin and removing smaller bits. Plus, at the end you'll be left with a nice skin from which you could make crunchy pork rinds. With the skin removed, all you need to do is check whether you have any bits left to clean up. You may also want to do this when buying the belly without the skin. Make sure to also check the other side. I'm cutting the belly into more manageable pieces for the brining process. You can slice the belly any way that's convenient for you, or just leave it in one piece if you can store it that way. Now the key part to making scrumptious bacon, the brine. The basis for my brine is curing salt, sea salt and demineralized water. For the regular bacon, I'm also adding some coarsely ground pepper. Just mix these ingredients in a bowl and stir to dissolve the salt. Then we're putting the meat and the brine into a Ziploc bag. Just squeeze out the excess air from the bag and that's it. By using the basic brine, it's easy enough to make variations. You can make a herb encrusted bacon with garlic and rosemary, or ginger and thyme, or switch it up by making sweet and spicy bacon. My second brine is to make the spicy bacon. We'll use the same basic ingredients and add an abundance of chili powder. You can use the powdered versions, flakes or fresh chilies. It doesn't really matter. Given the brining time, all of them will release their heat into the meat. Fair warning, this one does pack a punch and is not for the weak-hearted, especially when you cook it crispy in a pan. Just be careful with any brine spilling on your hands or work area. There's so much heat that it'll easily transfer to anything else. The last one is a fan favorite with the bacon goblins, honey bacon. With the same basic ingredients, we're adding a bunch of honey and sugar to make the brine. The sugar and honey content is too high to completely dissolve in the water, which is fine. The brining process will deal with that. You might be thinking, honey, sugar? That's not low carb. And generally that'd be correct. But it doesn't all end up in the meat. During the brining process, the meat absorbs about 10% of its weight of the brine, which means that about 1/5 of this brine ends up in the meat. That puts the carb content well within a very reasonable range. The honey bacon also makes for the best candied bacon if you cook it. There's amazing caramelization in the meat itself due to the sugar content. The brining process takes 5 days. So put the meat in a large container, making sure you have the brine covering as much as possible. The container is also to catch possible leakage, so try to keep the zipped end upward. You're going to turn the bacon every day, so all sides get properly brined. Just flip them over and move the brine around. Over time, you'll notice the meat turning a bit darker and getting firmer. There's no way to make this go any faster, but you can let it go for a couple of days longer, which might be a necessity if there's bad weather which prevents you from smoking. After an excruciating long wait of 5 days, or more, we can get set up to smoke the bacon. Get your bacon from the fridge and drain the brine. I generally give the bacon a quick rinse to remove the excess from the outside. You can totally leave it on, just keep in mind that this layer will reduce the amount of smoke that permeates into the meat. And for the honey bacon, it will leave a significantly larger amount of sugar, and thus carbs, on the outside. You can smoke the bacon any way you like. I have a smoker, but you can also use a barbecue or even an oven. What we'll want to do is smoke for about 2 hours total. The first hour will be on a lower temperature to really infuse the meat with that smoky flavor. After that, we'll raise the temperature to cook it through. So get set up for your smoke. I use charcoal as I feel that gives me a better flavor than briquettes. The downside is that they burn a bit faster and you need to keep an eye on them once in a while. For a 2-hour smoke, that's no big deal. But when you're smoking something like pork shoulder, which goes for 8 to 10 hours, that's going to be more effort. Get your coals hot and preheat your smoker to about 80 to 100 Celsius. When it's ready, you can add your wood chips, chunks or logs. I prefer to add that just before I add the meat, so it immediately starts the smoking process. I use beechwood for this bacon, but you can also opt for a stronger flavor by using oak. Regular bacon or strong flavored brines can easily handle a strong smoky flavor. It's mostly for the honey bacon that I opt for the beech. Add the bacon and let it smoke for an hour at 80 to 100 Celsius. Now that you're outside and have to keep an eye on your smoker, it's a perfect time to do a bit of gardening. Just let your smoker do its thing. After an hour, we're going to crank up the heat and cook that bacon. Increase the temperature to somewhere around 180 to 200 Celsius. Pork is done at 63 degrees Celsius internal temperature, and that's what we're aiming for. We don't want it to reach higher temperature, nor cook too long, as it will start rendering the fat down. It'll take somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes to cook through. You should always check all the pieces of meat on the smoker for their internal temperature, as the temperature in the smoker is not equal all around. Depending on your airflow, you'll have hot zones that will cook meat faster. Just start removing pieces that have cooked through and wait a bit more for the rest to catch up. Once removed, you should let it rest and cool. It'll help settle the juices and it's going to be easier to cut when cold. And that's all there is to it. It's a great addition to your staples that beats any store-bought bacon. You can store the bacon up to 2 weeks in a fridge in a container. If you vacuum seal the meat, after cooling obviously, it can go about 6 to 8 weeks. But experience teaches me that it never lasts that long. Before you know it, the bacon goblins come around again. As there are no serving sizes for bacon, I'll give you nutrition per 100 grams. For the regular bacon, that's 0 carbs, 9 grams of protein, 53 grams of fat, and about 517 calories. For the spicy bacon, that's half a gram of carbs, 9.5 grams of protein, 54 grams of fat, and 531 calories. And the honey bacon is at 4 grams of carbs, 9 grams of protein, 53 grams of fat, and about 531 calories. Thank you for joining me on this flavorful low-carb adventure. Don't forget to explore my other recipes, and if you had a great time, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel for more tasty content. Until we meet again, keep cooking, stay low carb, and let your taste buds dance with delight.